Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku became the avatar of the gods part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story 𝗵𝗃𝗃 from WhatIf. So let's start the video. It's not your fault, 𝗧𝗵𝗲. We couldn't have stopped it. It was our fault, but life moves on. No matter how sad we are, he's dead, and we can't change that. His mother seemed so casually calm as she said that. How could she be that calm? She should be sad. She should be angry. She should be shocked, at least. Izuku Yagi, a 13-year-old quirkless boy, has been confirmed dead after he committed suicide by jumping off of a cliff. His body has been found, and he shockingly has no injuries. It's suspected that someone has attempted to heal him after his death. The reporter spoke. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 just stared blankly at the 𝗵𝗃𝗃 as tears streamed down his face. His baby brother. His twin soul. The boy he had spent every second of his life with. He was dead. He had committed suicide. And the worst part was that it was because of him. He was the one who pushed him to that point. I just wanted to protect you. Why didn't you tell me they hurt you? I would have stopped all of them. How can I even dream of becoming a hero without you? He mumbled as he stared at his brother's grave. Please forgive me. You deserved to become a hero. If anyone deserved it, it's you. I don't deserve it, and neither does 𝗂𝗃 and the others. Only you do. He cried out as he traced his hand over the boy's grave. It was his fault. He was the one who failed at helping his brother with his heroic dream. He was the one that daily called his brother delusional for dreaming. He was the one that daily pushed his brother to the edge by telling him that he could never become a hero in the state that he was in. Their classmates didn't even care or stop to ask him or even give their condolences. You're done with that freak. At least you can become a hero without having to worry about having a quirkless nobody staining your name as a relative. Safe to say, that boy was the reason 𝗧𝗵𝗲 got an entire month detention after what he did to him. 𝗂𝗃 was the only one who seemed devastated. He cried. He cried in front of him. For the first time ever, 𝗂𝗃 was mentally open enough to the point where he cried. That DMN nerd. He can't be dead. The boy shouted as he punched a picture on the wall, a picture of him and the brothers. He's not weak enough to die. He should be alive. And he was. The boy was safe and sound on his own inside a cave that was far from everyone. Animals were surrounding him, all resting in peace. His green eyes and matching green hair were no longer there. Instead, he rocked white hair and similar dull white eyes. After he had jumped, he found himself laying down in pain for only a few minutes before a golden energy surrounded him, and his body stared, feeling warm. After that, he remembered stepping out of his own body, as though he was a soul leaving its host. However, he needed no host, as his soul got encased on its own flesh and bones. He had then walked away to that cave and sat down, his body feeling a lot lighter than usual. Once he sat down, his eyes closed as he took a heavy breath. Energy surrounded him again, and this time he could feel it moving according to his own will as it started twirling around him like rings. He kept on playing with that energy for hours on end until he felt like he needed to finally rest. However, instead of laying down and drifting away, he noticed some rabbits, birds, squirrels, and even a bear walking towards him. Hey there, he mumbled as he tried walking away, only for the birds to rush at him and latch onto him. His confusion increased as the other animals all surrounded him, including the bear that sat down close to his legs. With a sigh, the teen sat back down and patted the bear's head. The animal seemed satisfied by that as he extended his head forward, asking for more. The rest of the animals all seemed to do the same as they got closer to him, as though he was a magnet. While playing around with them, he noticed one of the rabbits limping and struggling to stand up. He quickly extended his arm to hold him and check the damage, only for the rabbit's leg to return to normal. Cool. He cooed out as his hand became surrounded with magical golden energy. Is this my quirk? Indeed it was. A quirk that needed stress that was as big as death to activate. He was glowing. He was powerful. He was the sun. He felt powerful in the sun. Like the sun god. he had said as he created a sword of energy. There was a lot he had to learn. And he learned as much as he could, at least. He studied hard for months until he was able to test his powers. However, testing his powers wasn't something to do alone. Instead, he did it in front of the whole world in the entrance exam of his dream school, UA. His name is Izuku Yagi. Do you hold any connection to an Izuku? The principal of the school had asked All Might. He and his wife seemed embarrassed to answer, but their son wasn't. My twin brother was called Izuku. He's no longer here with us. 𝗍𝗍 nodded at that. Very well then. He will be going through the entrance exam. In case his quirk is similar to your brother's, we'll have issues. 𝗍𝗍 shot back. Izuku was quirkless? The boy noted. His own body tensed at that. That's the reason his brother was no longer there. If only he had a quirk, he'd be able to live like everyone else. He wouldn't have been bullied. He wouldn't have been neglected by his parents. He wouldn't have committed. I hope he never forgives you too for not caring about him. Izumo had previously spat out at his parents. Izumo, this is unacceptable. We simply wanted to focus on your growth. His father answered. His mother nodded before adding. Only you were able to become a hero. He was weak, physically and mentally. He wasn't. He really wasn't. Izuku hated standing next to his brother and Kaken. He could have stood in any other place, but to his luck, he was forced to stand next to those two throughout the explanation of the exam that Present Mike was giving. Izumo was staring at him throughout the explanation, much to his discomfort. Kaken, on the other hand, was standing alone and scoffing at every minor inconvenience. You will be fighting against 4 different types of robots, each of which has a corresponding number of points to it. Your goal is to get as much points as possible. The hero explained. Suddenly, a blue-haired teen stood up and went on ranting. On the papers given to us, there's 4 robots instead of 3. These mistakes aren't something that a member of the most prestigious school's staff should be committing. You're right, young listener. There are 4 robots. However, only 3 provide villain points. The 4th is only a distraction. The hero answered enthusiastically. Izuku was then guided to his fake city with the rest of the students. He recognized his brother and the blue-haired teen also with him. They were talking over something that he couldn't catch, so he just ignored them and waited for the gates of the fake city to open so that the exam could start. Once opened, everyone looked around, expecting a countdown. That never seemed to happen, so both Izuku and Izumi rushed in. The green-haired immediately found a group of robots that he started levitating. He then smashed them into each other, destroying all of them. The white-haired boy, on the other hand, blasted the robots in front of him with golden energy blasts that destroyed them. The two went in opposite direction, each using his own way to shatter through the robots and gain their required points. What are you waiting for? There's no countdown in real battle. The hero announced. The students immediately rushed in at that, only to notice green metal pieces all around the city. The 2 Yagis were ravaging through the robots like a hot knife cutting through butter. Your kid is performing great, All Might. He's already flying through the ranks. He and young Katsuki Bakugo are currently on equal footing. Their scores are almost identical with only a negligible difference. 𝗍𝗍 spoke as the screen showed Izumo and Bakugo destroying their way through the robots. They are powerful. However, they're casting way too much destruction and are putting some of the other contestants in danger. Some students are showing better control and are acting a lot safer. Aizawa churned in as the screen changed to show Izuku. The whitehead was shielding a contestant from a huge piece of rubble that Izumo caused after he smashed the robot into a wall. Izuku then created an energy sword that he used to cut through the robots, easily slicing them to pieces. What exactly is his quirk? He's really fast and really strong, considering he casually punched through a robot. But he's also using blasts and creating swords, so what the hell is his quirk? Inko questioned as she stared at the screen. 𝗍𝗍 stared at her for a second before turning to scroll through his papers. Izuku Yagi, parents unknown, age 15, quirk son avatar. 𝗍𝗍 seemed to question the last part. The name wasn't clear enough to find a correlation to the boy's powers. Seems like his body is enhanced and he's capable of manipulating energy in different ways. I do need more information to know where the energy comes from and how far its limits go. 𝗫𝗠 ranted. Well, I want to see the limits. Aizawa shot back, shocking some of the other heroes. So do I, Eraserhead? 𝗫𝗠 said with a sadistic smirk as he reached for the red button. The 0-pointer might not be the strongest foe, but it's definitely more than enough to test both the strength and heroism of the students. 𝗫𝗠 smirked as he pushed the button, releasing the huge robot. Said huge robot caused a small quake under the students as he ravaged through the buildings. Both brothers seemed to choose to focus on points as they rushed away, only for someone to shout, "Help!" A brown-haired girl that was stuck in the rubble cried out. They both stopped at that and rushed back to the scene. Izumo immediately jumped, shattering his legs, and punched the robot, causing it to explode. Izuku stared with wide eyes as he saw the explosions. Izumo then started falling down, unable to move his hand to use his telekinesis due to the pain he was in. He thought he'd reached the ground. Is this how Izuku felt? He mumbled as he closed his eyes, waiting for the impact of hitting the ground. That never came, however, as Izuku jumped and caught him before reaching the ground. You're so reckless. He spat out as he laid the boy on the ground. A few seconds later, Mike shouted. And with that, the practical exam ends. Students who are injured will be healed quickly. The others may head to the hall for the written exam. The boy winced slightly in pain. The school's nurse, recovery girl, walked towards them. Oh my God, you wrecked your body, sweetie, she said as she got ready to kiss his forehead and heal him. Izuku, however, shielded them both, not allowing the kiss to reach the boy. Your quirk works on his own stamina. He might not have enough to finish the written exam in case you healed him, especially for injuries this big. Izuku explained himself. I get it, sweetie, but he can't continue this way either, she said back. Izuku just smiled at her. And he won't, he said as his eyes turned golden, his hair doing the same. He kept holding onto the boy for a few seconds until his eyes and hair returned to their white states. Izumo just stood up and checked his arm and legs, completely shocked. He wasn't even scratched. He was perfectly fine. Izuku didn't even say anything and just walked away. Wait, the boy shouted, receiving no response from the white-haired boy. Izuku just rushed to the exam hall, wanting to be done with everything before his parents show up. And after an extraordinary show of power and heroism, you've proven to be worthy of entering the grounds of 𝗬𝗍𝗔 as a student of its first year's hero course. Welcome to your hero academy, Izuku Yagi. It was a hologram of All Might that spoke via a small disc. The disc was placed inside a letter that was taken to the mail center that Izuku gave to the school. With the confirmation that he was accepted, the teen only had one thing left, besides finding a way to deal with his parents. His hero costume. He needed something flashy but fitting to his power set. And what else was more fitting than a Greek-like costume? The costume could wait, however, as he still had to reach the school and his classroom. This door can literally fit a giant. Izuku mumbled as he stared at a door that towered him in size. He opened it and immediately inside, finding Izumo and Bakugo sitting together while the blonde argued with the blue-haired teen from the entrance exam. Izuku stepped inside, planning on heading to his seat. He saw Izumo standing up and rushing towards him, but he just ignored him. Please just talk to me, Izuku, he mumbled as he held the boy's hand. Izuku snatched his hand away and rolled his eyes. I don't feel like it, he replied as he headed to an empty seat. Some of the students just stared at the interaction with confusion. Enough talking, a voice said. Suddenly, a huge yellow caterpillar stood up. The name's Shota Aizawa. I'm going to be your homeroom teacher for the year. The caterpillar opened up, and a tired-looking man stepped out of it. I don't want to hear any more blabber. Get dressed in your sports uniform and head to the training ground so that we can have a quirk apprehension test. The hero ordered. But sir, what about the orientation? We'd miss it. 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 exclaimed. We don't have time for these useless events. You, as hero course students, should be spending your time in training to always be better, and as the homeroom teacher, I choose how I run this class. Answered the hero as he stepped outside, not interested in any further questions. Everyone followed his orders and rushed towards the changing rooms, where they immediately started getting dressed. Dude, that's a big scar. 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗂𝗵𝗃 exclaimed as he pointed at a scar on Izuku's shoulder. It was a deep white circle that was the size of his shoulder, with a darker circle that extended all the way down to his chest and up to his neck. It was all pointy, and it looked like the result of a burn or explosion. Yeah, it's both ways, Izuku said as he turned around, showing the scar reaching beneath his shoulder blades, in the same way it did on his chest. Where is that from? And those other scars? Kirishima asked. The boy's body was scarred, some in the form of that circle, and others like scars caused by cuts. Shitty people, Izuku answered as he wore his shirt. He then smiled at the two before heading out, but not before noticing Izumo staring at him, his eyes tired and dull. He, alongside the other students, arrived at the training ground in a few minutes and waited for Aizawa to start the test. You scored the highest in the exam by 78 points. Show me how far you can throw this ball using your powers. Aizawa said as he threw a ball at Izuku. As far as possible. I'll try. The boy mumbled as he stood in a circle and got ready. His eyes and hair glue golden, and he smirked. Energy surrounded the ball, and he immediately launched the ball upwards, causing a shockwave. Everyone stared in shock as Aizawa showed them a device that calculated the strength and distance that the ball was thrown. 826 meters. Kaminari shouted. This is so cool, shouted Mina Ishido. It looks so fun, Yururika added. That ticked Aizawa off, though, as he scoffed and spoke up. If you find this fun, then let's raise the stakes. The person to score last will be expelled and no longer allowed to continue his hero path in this school. This isn't fair. We just arrived here. Toru Hagakure shouted. You're a hero in training. Fair is never a choice. Nothing is fair. Izuku answered as he walked away. Exactly that. Now, stop giving side remarks, and let's start the exam. Aizawa ordered. Said exam was rather easy. The 50-meter dash was easy enough for Izuku to score second after Tenya Ida. He then scored first in the grip test at 590 kilograms, followed by Shoji. The standing long jump was even easier as he just channeled energy to his feet and jumped, clearing the entire thing. The repeated side steps were rather annoying, though, as he had to balance himself on an energy plank that he moved around, making him score first. The ball throw was the most interesting, though, as he scored second after Yururika, who used her quirk to cancel the gravity of the ball, making it fly infinitely. That wasn't what interested Izuku, though. It was when Aizawa cancelled his brother's quirk. If you plan on using your useless power as your only source of abilities, then you should leave already. You can't be a hero with a quirk that you can't even control and instead shatter your arms upon its usage. The hero explained. Izumo nodded and went back to using his quirk when Izuku jumped in front of him. Stop being dumb. If using your quirk in your hand is shattering all of it, then use it in another way. He mumbled to the teen. Izumo's eyes widened at what Izuku nodded. Was the boy actually talking to him? Izuku didn't even wait for an answer before returning to his place. Izumo didn't even say anything and instead did as Izuku told him. He channeled one for all to a single finger that he used to send the ball flying while also causing a shockwave. The teen's score was shown as 705. 5 meters, making him smirk despite his broken finger. Izuku just walked towards him before touching his finger, completely healing it. Izumo was cut off by Ozuku snatching his hand away. I'm only doing this because you deserve a chance to show your powers. That doesn't mean I'm interested in chatting. Izuku spat out. Izumo could only sigh at that. He'd definitely find a way to talk to his brother. The rest of the exams then went on. Those were a distance-long run where Izuku scored third after Ida and Bakugo. I need to work on my speed, he had mumbled next to Aizawa. The hero didn't even answer. Instead, he noted that and kept in mind for later on. The repeated toe touches and sit-ups were also really easy, as Izuku scored first in both. Once the exams were done, Aizawa showed the list of names with their ranks. At the last rank stood Toru Hagakure, who was shaking, much shown by her moving uniform. I lied about expelling the last student. You may return to your classes. The hero casually said as he walked away. While the students ranted about what Izuku said, Izuku noticed a presence behind a wall that Izuku went towards. He also sneaked there, looking for the presence. When he was a few meters near, he finally recognized the presence. What are you doing here? Izuku asked. Oh, I was just checking on the students to see who I will be teaching soon, the hero said with a smirk. TCH whatever. Izuku scored first. I'm sure that was interesting to look at, wasn't it? Izuku asked. The hero scoffed at that before glaring at Izuku. Izuku is a personal topic. Do not interfere in what doesn't concern you, Izuku. Your job is simply to train them. Toshinori answered. He's not a topic. He's a kid who was neglected and abused all of his life by the two people who were supposed to love him unconditionally. I promise you that once 𝗧𝗵𝗲 finds a way, I will be ensuring that he's no longer under your last name. We will find him a great home to stay in, where he would be actually cared for. The hero ranted. 𝗬𝗍 scoffed at that as he got closer to Izuku. And why wouldn't you do that? Or would your 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟? The word couldn't continue before Izuku sent a blast towards them, causing the ground to break right next to 𝗬𝗍's foot. Stop being rude, Izuku said as he walked forward. Finally came to see your dad. You have a lot to explain. 𝗬𝗍 spoke as he smirked at his son. I came to see the #1 hero that decided to give his quirk to his son who already had a quirk, instead of the boy that he neglected and pushed aside for being quirkless. Izuku answered. Izuku stared in confusion at that. 𝗬𝗍 just stared with wide eyes. Yeah, I heard you back when you exposed your identity to 𝗧𝗵𝗲. You got a quirk when your 𝗵𝘃𝗲 passed it on to you, meaning that you were literally quirkless before that. Yet despite that fact, you still had the nerves to neglect me. You neglected me for something that happened to me because of you. And look at me now. I activated my quirk. And I promise you, I will exceed you and become a symbol of safety and power in this country and in the world. Rambled the boy. Izuku and Toshinori could both only stare in shock. However, they weren't the only ones, as 𝗧𝗵𝗲, who had followed him, had also heard that. Meanwhile, Bakugo just stood still as he thought about what he saw. Izuku Yagi Deku, how is he alive? How does he have a quirk? What the hell happened to him? The boy rambled to himself. The teen was casting a shock after the other. Why won't you talk to me, Izuku? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 wasn't even talking to anyone. He was just staring at a picture of him and his brother from when they were still 4 years old. It was the last picture they had together, as ever since that day he and his parents just pushed the boy away. He couldn't have any more pictures with his brother cause his parents never bothered taking his brother with them anywhere. He couldn't even have school twin pictures with him because everyone would start taunting him about accepting the quirkless loser. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, it's time to head to school. Today is the first study session with your dad. He said that he has a huge plan. Inko had shouted for him. The boy just sighed before placing the picture down on his nightstand, right next to the other stuff that he kept from Izuku, a necklace that they got when they were kids, and birthday letters, 9 of them, each of which Izuku wrote for him on their birthday, ever since 4 years old. He never got one on his 13th birthday. His brother was no longer there to write him one. Meanwhile, Izuku was sitting down in class, having arrived before everyone else. He stared at Bakugo's seat for a few seconds before scoffing. Everyone started entering the class, crowding the place. Does anyone know who our hero basic training teacher is? I heard it might be 𝗬𝗍 himself. 𝗧𝗟𝗧 spoke up. Izuku just shrugged before turning to look at his notebook. I hope not. He mumbled, which wasn't noticed by anyone besides a specific scarred boy. Suddenly, Izuku noticed a paper flying his way. He immediately caught it and stared around, looking for who threw it. In a few seconds, he finally found the source, as 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was smiling at him from his seat. The boy scoffed at that before crumbling the paper and placing it in his pocket. 𝗧𝗵𝗲's eyes slightly darkened at that as he stared down. Can't you just read it? He thought to himself. Did his twin actually hate him that much? 3 sessions of pure boredom passed by quickly. The students finally rushed from class once it was lunchtime. Wanna sit with us? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 asked as he stepped next to Izuku. No. The boy replied before walking forward. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 just stared down once again. Was he just going to keep doing that over and over? He sure hoped not. The green-haired boy went to the cafeteria with 𝗧𝗑𝗧𝗟𝗃 Eureka and 𝗤𝗫𝗍 Ida. Izuku, on the other hand, walked on his own and sat down alone to eat. Though he didn't focus much on eating, he just scrolled through his phone. Current fastest heroes in Japan. I think there's Hawks and 𝗵𝗃𝗫, though they're both completely different. He mumbled to himself as he continued researching. He was taking the speed to the full extent. If there's an issue or weakness in him, then he was going to fix it. There's also Grandpa, though I already use my powers to give myself a push, and it's not enough. I need something to have speed around me continuously. Izuku rambled to himself. He noticed Shudo Todoroki sitting next to him, which slightly shocked him. The son of the number 2 hero seemed to self-preserve to be sitting next to anyone. "Hey, Todoroki-kun," Izuku greeted as he smiled at the boy. "Hello." He received. Silence then encased the two until Shudo broke it with something weird. "Do you have anything to do with Bakugo Katsuki?" he asked. Izuku just raised his eyebrow at him, unsure where that came from. "Ever since I sat here, he's been glaring at me," Shudo explained. "Oh, just ignore him," Isaac replied as he turned to look at the blonde, only to meet his glare. Shudo didn't even reply to that. He had more questions, but those had to be left for later on. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 also seemed to glare at Todoroki, though Izuku never noticed that. The two then fell back in silence, though Izuku attempted to keep it casual and not awkward by constantly smiling at the boy and showing him whatever he was seeing on his phone. That went on for a few minutes until the bell rang, and they headed back to their classroom. "I am here," entering the door like a pro-hero teacher. All Might had shouted when he entered the classroom. "It's All Might." "No way. He's actually teaching us. Look, he's dressed in his Silver Age costume." Izuku could only stare at his classmates with pity. "You have no idea what this idol of yours is actually like?" he mumbled as he focused on the hero. Now, students, let's calm down. I will be teaching you the most important class for the Hero Core students, Hero Basic Training." He announced. The class erupted in more chaos at that. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 and Izuku both just sighed in defeat. "And for our first training session, we will be having trial battle," the hero shouted. "OSHT," 𝗧𝗵𝗲 mumbled. Was thus his father's plan, making him fight his brother. And one of the perks of being a hero is looking good. The hero kept wailing as drawers extended from the wall, each containing a different number. These were provided to you based on your quirk registration forms and personal requests that you gave in, the hero announced. The students stared in awe as they rushed to get their costumes. "Get yourself suited up and meet me in the training ground beta," the hero ordered. The class all nodded and cheered before heading to do as told. Izuku was the last to take his costume as he was still sighing in defeat over having to deal with the man. "Why are you still here?" Izuku asked as he glared at the hero. "You are taking way too long, young Yagi. A hero shouldn't waste time," the hero shouted. "A hero shouldn't neglect his flesh and BLD, or anyone for that matter, so you really don't have the right to speak about heroism, number 1. Izuku spoke as he walked out. He was about to shut the door when he noticed All Might about to speak. "And do not call me by your last name," he spat out. He then rushed to the changing room, where everyone had already finished, and left beside 𝗧𝗵𝗲, who was just about to leave. The boy was dressed in a forest green full-body jumpsuit with a red belt, black elbow pads and knee pads, and yellow gloves, along with his signature red boots. He was also wearing a mask with long ear-like protrusions that resemble All Might's haircut and a respirator with a makeshift smile on it that also reflects that of said hero. The costume was familiar to Izuku. It was the costume they worked on as kids after they decided to become heroes. "Izuku, please just hear me," the boy spoke when he met his brother. Izuku just scoffed before turning around. "I know you're mad at me, and you have every right to be, but please just listen. I think Dad wants to put us against each other in battle training," the boy said. "He can do whatever he wants to do. I'm going to win, no matter who it is that I'm against." Izuku spat back as he took off his shirt. The scars on his back showed, making 𝗧𝗵𝗲 slightly shiver as he felt his spine stiffening up. "Whatever you say, But I just want you to know that I'm sorry, and that I wish I could go back in time just to stop my dumb childish self from doing all that he did to you, baby brother. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 mumbled. Do I look like I need you to apologize? I no longer care about what any Yagi has to say. In fact, I don't care about whatever happens to any of you. Izuku mumbled back. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 felt his heart shatter at that. He knew it. He knew his brother was hurt, but he didn't know it would be that painful to hear it out loud. He could only nod his head at his brother before walking away, his eyes tearing up. Izuku followed a few minutes later, rushing with his costume flying behind him. Oh my god, he heard Momo say. You look so good. Mina extended the O as she stared at Izuku. DMN Yagi bro. The body is ripped. It's so manly. Kirishima added. Thanks guys. The boy just giggled. You look divine. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 mumbled. His eyes held sadness, but he still had to compliment his brother's choice. I wish you had chosen our shared costume, he thought to himself. Izuku just nodded before turning around, his back flexing slightly. He was draped in white robes that cover one shoulder and wrap around his waist, leaving most of his upper body exposed. To complement that, he wore a laurel wreath crown, a symbol of victory and honor in ancient Greek and Roman culture. In addition, his upper arms and wrists were adorned with gold armbands and bracelets, while his lower legs were decorated with golden bands and straps. He also rocked traditional Greco-Roman style sandals. The sandals had thin, golden straps that wrap around his feet and ankles. And as a last piece, he had a pendant that extended down to his chest. The pendant had an outer circle formed by small, beaded gold accents. At the heart of the pendant was a vibrant yellow gemstone. It was set within a gold circular frame with small, bead-like details around it, further emphasizing the central focal point. Coming out of it were rays that alternate between gold and silver, creating a dynamic pattern. The rays are slightly curved and pointed. A/N. It's basically the picture at the top of the chapter. WhatIf for some reason won't allow me to post pictures in the chapters. Izuku walked forward. In front of him stood All Might, the man. Staring in shock at him. Your costume is definitely revealing. All Might spoke. Izuku just shrugged his shoulder before turning to look at his classmates. A lot of them were showing skin. It wasn't just him. Bakugo specifically was glaring at the teen while his fists twisted above each other, as though he was ready to explode him to the other side of the school. Well, now that you all are here in your costumes, which you all look good, let's start this test. There will be teams of 2, one team playing the role of villains that would have a nuclear weapon, while the other team is the hero duo that would save the day by either capturing the villains or finding the weapon and touching it. All Might ranted. So it's an indoor test? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 questioned. Yes, it is. A lot of your exams take place in the streets or outside in general. However, if we analyze the statistics, more villain attacks and hero action take place inside buildings and facilities. All Might asked, and everyone seemed to understand as nods were exchanged between the students. Well, sir, have you decided the teams New York analyzing our quirks and deciding the best group-ups? Ida questioned, only receiving a head shake. That wouldn't be as authentic as an actual hero mission. In case any actual villain attack happens, any heroes nearby would be forced to pair no matter whether they're compatible together or versus the villains or not. Izuku answered. That's true, young Yagi. That's exactly the reason why we decided on using random draws to choose the team. All Might added. Ida and the others nodded at that. Izuku, meanwhile, just glared at the hero. Said hero immediately started drawing out names. Much to Izuku and 𝗧𝗵𝗲's shock, they weren't placed against each other. Instead, they were placed on the same team, Team E. I didn't expect that. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 mumbled. Izuku didn't even reply and just continued glaring at the hero. Neither did I, went untold. Now, Team E will be placed against Team D. Team D, you will be the villains. You should keep the bomb hidden at all costs. Team E, as the heroes, your job is to find the bomb or capture the villains in time. The villains have 5 minutes to hide it before the heroes step in. The hero ranted. Team D, which consisted of Bakugo and Ida, nodded at that before rushing inside, but not before the blonde glared at the twins. Kakin is going to target you, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said. Izuku just nodded before standing aside. "Deek with 𝗧𝗲𝗏 and the bomb. I'll deal with him," Izuku ordered. "Are you sure? We can both deal with him and then deal with 𝗧𝗏𝗏." Izumo sure back. Izuku didn't answer and just entered the building as the 5 minutes mark hit. His twin sighed before also rushing in. Once they were a few minutes in, Isaac felt an explosion coming his way, and he immediately shielded himself. "DKU. How are you alive? Why didn't you tell me? How the hell do you have such a powerful quirk?" The blonde ranted as he exploded him over and over again. All of his attempts were of no use as Izuku just blocked all of them. "Answer me, DMNIT. Why were you lying to us? You were just there, taking everything like a weakling, while secretly having a quirk. What about your death? Did you also fake that just to make fun of everyone?" Bakugo shouted. Izuku just glared at him before using the shield to push him backwards. "Rush to the bomb," he ordered before rushing at Bakugo. Izumo could only scoff in defeat before nodding and running to the stairs. "How dare you lie to me?" Bakugo shouted as he also rushed. He sent a punch, only for Izuku to dodge it and use it to jump on the boy and twist his hand. "I have no reason to answer anything coming from your mouth," he mumbled before blasting him backwards. "Well then, I'll force your answers out, quirkless Deku," Bakugo shouted before rushing at him. Isaac just dodged his explosion. He blocked another one using his shield and another, until he was in a dead end. "This will make you regret ever lying and making a joke out of me, Deku," Bakugo shouted as he raised his gauntlet. "These aren't just for decoration. They store my sweat, and just like your nerdy self knows, my sweat is what creates my explosion, so I'll leave the analysis to you." The boy spat as he got ready to unleash the explosion. "That's going to kill him," Yururika stated while looking at the screen in the watchroom. The rest of the class seemed to agree as everyone stared at the two with panic in their eyes. "Try to dodge," Bakugo spat out as he unleashed the explosion. With a smirk, Izuku smashed through the wall and jumped out, shocking everyone. The entire floor got damaged. However, that wasn't all, as the other floors also seemed to take damage enough to the point where it shook slightly while the windows shattered. "Izumo," Izuku mumbled as he stared at the last floor. He summoned an energy platform under himself and then stood on it. The platform then slowly levitated until he reached the floor where he jumped from. "DKU," Bakugo shouted as he got ready to send another explosion before Izuku even entered the building again. And with that, the heroes are the winners after young Izumo Yagi captures the weapon successfully. All Might announced through the speakers. "No," Bakugo spat before sending the explosion forward. Izuku just gulped before removing the platform from underneath him, making him fall downwards. He gulped slightly as he felt his powers stop functioning. He attempted to summon another platform, but it didn't work out. He closed his eyes, ready for the impact, but that never came as he felt himself levitating a few centimeters above the ground. He turned to look at his back after feeling heavy, only for his eyes to widen. "Wings?" he asked himself as he saw two huge white wings on his back. They remained there for a second before suddenly getting encased in golden energy and disappearing, making the boy fall down. "Well, rude wings," he mumbled as he stood up. He quickly brushed off the dirt from his costume before walking away. He met 𝗧𝗏𝗏, who was holding Izumo on his shoulder while Bakugo was far away, ramblings and complaining. "You two seem really hurt," Izuku said to 𝗧𝗏𝗏. "He managed to punch me straight to the gut. I would have been more hurt had I not managed to speed away not to take the full impact of his punch. He broke his hand in the process, though," 𝗧𝗏𝗏 explained. Izuku just nodded before raising his arms. "I hope my powers works at least," he mumbled. Once he touched 𝗧𝗏𝗏's chest, which was exposed after Izumo's punch shattered his costume, he felt the boy's body tense up slightly before golden energy encased him and healed his injuries. "Thank you, Yagi-kun," the boy mumbled as he stared in shock. "Izuku. Izuku is fine. I hate that last name," he mumbled as he raised his arm to touch Izumo's hand, healing him as well. The boy took a heavy breath before jumping off of 𝗧𝗏𝗏's back. "Thanks," he mumbled to both of them. "You're very welcome, dear friend," 𝗧𝗏𝗏 answered. Izuku just walked forward without an answer. He's such a sweet person. Why is it that he's so cold towards you? Ida asked. Izumo just stared down in shame. He couldn't answer that. He couldn't deal with everyone knowing how horrible he was towards his brother. Your plan was reckless. Removing the shield from beneath you nearly killed you there. All Might taunted Izuku after he entered the class. Actually, All Might, the explosion would have caused me more damage. My body could sustain that fall with only some injuries. It was the better choice out of the two. Izuku replied. All Might just stood still at that as he saw the boys' glares that were directed at him. What about the wings? Have you always had those? They're so cool. Hagakure exclaimed as she motioned with her gloves around. I've never summoned wings. I guess it's a part of my quirk that I didn't know I had beforehand. Izuku answered back. The students seemed to nod at that. Some of them were busy analyzing his strategy, though, so they didn't bother make any reaction. Though the students weren't the only ones analyzing, as Aizawa and Nizu were noting everything that the teen had done. The students of 1A were in chaos as per usual. The day after the battle trial was full of chaos as everyone was talking about the fights they had. That wasn't all though. Before they could reach the school, the students had to deal with a bunch of reporters. What is it like having All Might as a teacher? Do you think the symbol of peace is better at heroism or teaching? Is he as cool as everyone claims he is? And more questions were shouted in the teens' faces. The public is way too fixated on him. There are hundreds of other heroes with cooler abilities, costumes, and all-in-all presence. You're wasting time that can be used to cover actually important events and issues around the country. Izuku had answered them before jumping into the school, ignoring all the shouts of protest. At least we have Yagi-san to heal us. He'd be a great support hero in any team he's in. Momo had stated. Thank you, Momo-san. Izuku is fine, though, and that works for everyone else. Please don't use Yagi when referring to me. I hate that name. Izuku exclaimed. Why though? Aren't you and Izumo twin brothers? He doesn't seem to hate it at all. Ojiro answered. Personal. Izuku shot back. The conversation couldn't go any further, though, as Aizawa stepped into the class, making everyone stumble back to their seats. I watched your trial battles yesterday, and you all did well. However, both of you are extremely reckless in using your powers. Aizawa said as he pointed at Izumo and Bakugo. The first nodded before looking at his hands in shame. The latter seemed ticked off as he looked like he was ready to skin the man alive. You weren't taking the fight as seriously as you should have. You were thinking about something else, which is a huge weakness during battle. Aizawa noted as he pointed at Izuku. I'm aware. I'll make sure not to do that again. Izuku replied. Now for today's work. You all have something to do. Aizawa spoke. Groans of disappointment left the students at that. Please, not another test. I'm not in the state where I can deal with that 𝗧𝗵𝗲 mumbled. None of the students were. The battle trial was annoying enough to deal with. Enough, babbling. You will be choosing the class representative. Choose smartly because the representative is the voice of the classroom. They, alongside the vice president, will be responsible when asking anything from the principal or the teachers. Aizawa announced, it's just normal school stuff. Wait, representative? I want to be representative. Kirishima shouted. What? I want to be. I can lower the number of exams. Kaminari shouted back. I can get us new flashier uniforms. Mina announced. The rest of the class erupted in chaos again as everyone started shooting their announcements to convince everyone to choose them. Why not just vote? Izumo asked. How do you plan on voting? We don't know each other to the point of casually voting for each other, especially for such a huge thing. Sato spoke up. Well then, in that case, we can check who gained everyone's attention even in such a small time. Izuku replied. Yeah. You don't need time to notice who you find the most unique. Izumo added. I don't care how you choose the representative. Just do it quickly and stop disturbing me. You have until the end of the session. Aizawa spoke. Well, Yaoyorozu-san, mind creating a box and some small papers so that we can start voting? Izuku said. The girl nodded and immediately started creating the objects before she and Izuku distributed them. Everyone started voting, and in a few minutes, everyone had their answers in the box that Izawa went through before writing the results on the board. Izuku Yagi, 4 Izumo Yagi, 3 Momo Yaoyorozu, 2 The rest of the students had 1 or 0 votes, keeping them out of question. Well, thanks for trusting me, guys. I'm glad that I got to gain your trust so quickly. I won't disappoint you. Izuku spoke in front of everyone. Yeah, me too. I promise that we will work together to ensure everyone's safety and happiness. Izumo giggled out. Izuku just stared at him for a few seconds before turning to look at the board while everyone cheered. Bakugo was just sulking in his seat while shooting daggers at the teen. Who voted for me? He asked himself. Izumo smiled at him, but he just looked away before the bell rang. All of the students rushed out of the classroom and headed to the cafeteria, Izuku included. I wonder who voted for me. He spoke as he and Todoroki ate. I did. The boy answered as he slurped his soba. Really? The teen asked out loud, receiving a nod in return. I did too. Another voice said. Izuku turned to look at the voice, only to be met with Momo. You too. What? Yes, what if? Well, you've shown great planning and powers in the past few days that passed. Not to mention, you don't panic over All Might and the other teachers, so you're always thinking without being affected by their status, which we need in our rep, Momo explained. I just thought that you're cool. Jairu stated as she walked behind her. You too. Izuku cut himself off when he saw a group of reporters rushing into the school. The defense system, how the hell this time, he was cut off by the school alarm. Wearing level 3 security breakage. All students, please calmly head to your classes and remain with your homeroom teachers. Everyone panicked and rushed out of their seats, heading towards the exit door. Izuku immediately before creating a shield around the door, shocking everyone. It's press. They somehow broke in. Just remain calm. The teachers are out there, so we can't just go to our classes. He spoke up. The students just exchanged looks for a few seconds before heading back to their seats. Show off. He heard someone mumbling. He just ignored it and sat down. That was a great way to stop everyone from panicking. Momo stated. Izuku just nodded before feeling a shiver down his spine. There's something wrong. Someone wrong. He mumbled before he got out of his seat and rushed out of the cafeteria, shocking everyone. Izumo immediately did the same and rushed after him. Izuku just ran through the Ichu until he reached the source of the weird aura that he felt, 𝗍𝗍's office. Izumo shouted as he rushed behind him. The slightly older green-haired boy could barely glimpse at his brother's shadow. Izuku didn't bother to look behind and just smashed the door open. All of the drawers were opened and messy, and the wall was crumbled to dust. What happened here? Izumo asked after he stepped in. Where's 𝗍𝗍-san? Izuku asked. Suddenly, the creature entered the office. Right here, young man, he said. Are there any cameras in this office? He asked. There is. However, they seem to have been stopped beforehand. We have no idea who broke into the office. And we're unsure why and what they took. 𝗍𝗍 replied. With a scoff, Izuku nodded. That was way too abnormal. How could the person who broke in even know where the office was? How exactly did you even know that someone broke in? The press was used as a distraction, obviously. 𝗍𝗍 spoke up. I sensed a weird aura. Izuku casually replied. Okay, young man. You two are free to leave. 𝗍𝗍 spoke. The two just nod 3D before heading out. Do you think it's someone who's targeting Dad? Izumo asked. Izuku just let out the 𝗍𝗧. I don't know and I don't care. Heroes and their families are targeted all the time. He's no exception. Izuku mumbled before rushing away. Izumo was just left behind, confused. Does that mean you wouldn't care if I were targeted too? All right, students, today's training session will be unlike the usual. We will be training on an off-campus facility that will work on your rescue training capabilities. Aizawa spoke. Actual hero work. Mina shouted. We will be rescue training. That's so fun. Hagekure shouted back. The rest of the class also seemed to cheer with fun, besides the Yagis, who stared at Aizawa to mention what happened. However, There will be another difference, as we will have heroes nearby for extra protection. Not to mention, All Might, myself, and another facility member will all be responsible for training you. Aizawa stated. Is that because of the recent break-in? Momo asked. We need more security, especially considering that we're not inside of the school. Aizawa answered. Izuku and Izumo both stared at him with questioning eyes. Have they not figured out who broke in yet? Whatever you wear is your choice. If you plan on remaining in costume, head to the changing rooms, then to the buses in the parking lot. Aizawa said. The students all nodded their heads and rushed to the changing rooms. Everyone had decided to use their costumes. What's that necklace, Izuku bro? We don't see it while you're in your hero costume. Denki asked. It's nothing. I just like to keep an accessory with me whenever I'm out. The boy mumbled as he took off the necklace and placed it in his pocket. Oh, you have pockets. I never noticed that. Shiro noted. Izuku just shrugged with a smile as he saw Izumo staring at him. That necklace looks like the one we got together, but it can't be, can it? He hates me. The boy thought to himself. Izuku quickly placed his golden pieces on before rushing out of the room and heading towards the buses. You think you can summon your wings again? Aizawa asked when he saw the boy. I don't know. It happened once and never happened since. Izuku replied. It would be great for your speed. Aizawa shot back. Izuku just tilted his head at him. I heard you mumbling about needing speed. If you can summon your wings and train with them, you'll easily become faster. Look at Hawks, for example. His wings have turned him into one of the fastest heroes despite being so young and inexperienced. Aizawa explained. Izuku took that in and nodded before noticing the rest of his classmates arriving. Alright, everyone, please slowly enter the bus and get seated. Izuku ordered. Everyone nodded at that and rushed inside. Well, the slow part went unheard. He mumbled as he stepped inside. Problem children. Aizawa sighed out. The bus immediately took off once Aizawa and Izuku entered. He sat next to Shuto, Momo, and Jair. In front of them were Izumo, Tsu, Yuruka, and Ida. Everyone was talking about 𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏's future careers as heroes when Tsu mentioned him and his brother. Izuku-kun would be great as both a support hero for healing and a main battlefield fighter considering his powers. She said. He and Yagi-kun could be great together if he didn't hate him. She added. Izuku scrunched his face at that. We're here. Everyone, please head to the entrance door. Aizawa announced as the doors opened. The students rushed outside, and Izuku could see his brother looking at him with a tear in his eyes. He rushed outside while clutching his pocket. No way was that how everyone saw him. Everyone rushed at the entrance where the pro-hero 13 stood. Both Yagis and Yuruka stared at her with awe while Izuku rambled about her powers. Head inside, and let's start. All Might will be arriving shortly. Aizawa ordered. Everyone did as told. Beneath them was a huge center surrounded by a bunch of different rescue scenarios. The students stared in awe as they ranted about where they'd start odd with. That kept on until the electricity started glitching, and a purple warp gate appeared in the middle of the facility. That evil aura. They're doing something to the entire area. Ida, head out and rush to class immediately. Izuku ordered. Listen to him. Aizawa stopped the teen. With a sigh, Ida rushed outside. The students besides Izumo just stared with confusion at the interaction. How perplexing. All Might was supposed to be here. The gate suddenly spoke after a bunch of people stepped outside of it. Why isn't he here? Everyone came to see the symbol of peace getting destroyed. Do we really have to kill some kids for him to show up? If so, then go. I don't want anyone alive. A crusty blue-haired man spoke. Why are there villains here? Isn't this supposed to be rescue training? Mina asked. They're actual villains. The alarms are not going off for some reason, so they're masking their presence. Or, considering the weird aura around the campus, they're using a quirk to affect all of the electrical devices around. Izuku explained. The students stared with shock at that. 13. Remain with the children while I deal with those scumbags. You all remain here, and Kaminari, Try reaching the school using your quirk in case 𝗧𝗲𝗏 can't reach it physically on time. Aizawa ordered as he jumped down to the center in order to take down the villains. With a scoff, Izuku rushed behind him as he summoned an energy shield. What did you think you're doing here? Aizawa spat out as he kicked a villain backwards. You can't take them on your own. Most of them aren't strong, but that mist thing, the blue-haired man, and the weird bird creature are all radiating extremely powerful and evil auras, especially that abomination. Izuku mumbled as he shot the shield forward, sending a group of villains flying backwards. Said mist creature disappeared and appeared next to the students. Aizawa must have accidentally blinked. Izuku scoffed but remained in the center as he helped Aizawa take down the villains. While the two took down the villains as though they were mere insects, the mist creature teleported the students each to a different place in the facility. He must have some form of teleportation or warp quirk. That man also seems like he has a strong quirk, but the bird creature is abnormal. It's like it has more than one soul. Izuku mumbled as he shielded himself from incoming bullets. 𝗧𝗏𝗏 definitely still hasn't reached the school, and our devices are still not functioning. Izuku mumbled as he blasted a bunch of villains away before summoning another shield to block a man's attack. He scored before turning the shield into an energy hand that he used to hold the man and throw him at the blue-haired crusty villain. You brat! The villain shouted as he dodged. Oh, Izuku mumbled before he sensed something behind him. He could barely turn his head before he was punched away. The bird. He mumbled as he got smacked into the wall. The creature rushed at him to punch him again. Izuku quickly created a shield. However, it was easily shattered by the bird who punched him again, making him spit out a bunch of BLD at the creature's hand. It easily towered over his size. The villain attached itself into the wall before punching Izuku again. The boy spit more BLD before glaring at the creature and creating an energy blast to shoot him away. His plan didn't work, however, as the creature remained in place without a scratch. What the dash, he was punched again, making him tremble in pain. He scoffed before creating a sword, but he couldn't even use it before the creature held his arm and twisted it, shattering it. He scoffed before he noticed the bird getting pushed away. It was Izumo who punched him after Aizawa cancelled the creature's quirk. However, that took Aizawa's focus off of the villains as the blue-haired villain touched his elbow, causing it to start crumbling like paper. Izuku scoffed before sending a blast at the villain, knocking his hand backwards. Aizawa took that chance to jump away to safety. Yagi! The hero shouted. Izuku's eyes widened before he twisted his head to see why his teacher shouted, only for his vision to darken. He couldn't even look. Izumo was held in the air by his neck with both of his arms and a leg twisted weirdly. The creature let out an inhuman screech as it tightened its hold around the boy's neck, making the teen wiggle around for breath. Izumo could barely talk. Izuku could barely see. He couldn't see. He couldn't see anything besides his brother and the creature. Izuku, calm down. Aizawa shouted as he punched the blue-haired villain away. Izuku, however, didn't seem to hear that, as his eyes shot open with golden energy encasing them. For gigantic wings that were big enough to fill the entire facility also appeared as he let out a screech of his own. His body got surrounded with golden energy, and his scars all started glowing, as though the energy was filling them. Get your hands of my brother. Get your hands of my brother. It wasn't Izuku's voice. It was like there were hundreds of people talking through his body. The creature let out a screech, but he couldn't even get to finish it before Izuku was in front of him. He immediately punched the creature with energy that caused the entire facility to shake as the windows shattered. The ground shook and cracked under everyone, shocking both heroes and villains. The creature was sent flying outside of the facility. Something then fell from Izuku's pocket next to Izumo. "Ẓizuko," mumbled Izumo as he attempted to stand up. Suddenly, an energy shield surrounded both Izumo and the object. Izuku then launched forward, leaving the facility and rushing at the creature that was still flying backwards. The creature finally reached a building and stopped after shattering the ground beneath it. It jumped upwards to attack Izuku, only for the teen's hand to get surrounded with energy. He smashed the villain away, causing even more shockwaves that caused all of the glass near him to crack. No one hearts my brother. The teen shouted again as he created an energy orb to send at the creature. The orb started barely larger than Izuku, but it suddenly increased in size until it easily towered the buildings that he was flying above. Don't touch him, he spat out as he launched the energy forward, causing the explosion of both the creature and 3 other buildings. Screams of terror emerged, though the teen couldn't even hear them as he got ready to rush at the creature that slowly started healing. Suddenly, he felt a bunch of objects flying his way, but he just sent an energy blast at them, destroying them. Rude. My feathers. A voice said. Izuku launched another energy blast at the source of the voice, causing the number 3 hero, Hawks, to dodge at the last second. Demon dude, what's wrong with you? Can't you wait a little before trying to kill me? The hero asked. Izuku just let out a screech before launching forward and punching the hero away, sending him flying through a bunch of buildings. Before he could rush at either creatures, he was also punched away through a few buildings. Don't fear, because I am here. All Might made his presence known as he stood on a building close to where he punched Izuku from. Oh. We are. The pro-hero 𝗵𝗃𝗃 announced. Izuku, or whoever was controlling his body, seemed to have recognized those voices. Give me my brother now. He shouted before rushing at All Might to punch him. The hero quickly reacted and blocked it, but that caused another huge shockwave that extended for meters away from them. Calm down, Izuku. Stop this immediately. Inko ordered as she sent a bunch of rocks flying at the teen. Izuku just scoffed as he kept attempting to push the number 1 hero away, though All Might also held his ground as he fought back. Even with his eyes closed, the teen sent a huge energy blast from his torso, completely crumbling the rocks flying his way. That's enough. An unfamiliar voice said as someone held Izuku in place. Let's see how you deal with fire. The person spoke as Izuku's entire body was lit on fire. He screeched out and attempted to break free, but All Might punched him, sending both the teen and 𝗵𝗃𝗃 backwards. Don't touch my brother. Izuku shouted again. Wait, what? 𝗵𝗃𝗃 questioned before he felt himself freezing. Ice encased the two. However, the ice was abnormal as it glowed golden. What the hell is he? How many abilities does he have? Asked 𝗵𝗃𝗃 as he sent a bunch of fire at the teen. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 did the same with a bigger bunch of rocks. Hawks also joined as he sent some feathers at the teen to try and finish the final blow. With them, All Might rushed forward to punch the teen. However, with a swish of his wings, the teen sent everything flying away and affected All Might's launch as he got slower while trying to fight against the wind. Give me my BB brother. Izuku's voice lowered as the energy stopped flowing around him, and he fell downward, unable to move. The heroes turned around to see, only to find Aizawa with his quirk activated and Izumo standing next to him scratch-free while clutching onto a gold piece. Is that the villain that entered the school? 𝗵𝗃𝗃 questioned as he flew downwards. No, that's a student. Aizawa answered, shocking the number 2 and 3 heroes. Never knew you were this funny, Eraserhead. We should definitely go on a mission together. Hawks mumbled as he walked forward with his hand in his pockets. I don't joke. The hero coldly said. No way, Hawks stated. Are you trying to say that a student just fought against the 4 top pro heroes? 𝗵𝗃𝗃 asked. That's not him. He would never cause this much damage. It's like something controlled him when he saw his brother hurt. Aizawa noted as he looked at Izumo. Hurt? Questioned the number 3 hero. He healed me. Izumo immediately answered. Well, how about we talk later? He's still there somewhere. Spoke Inko. The rest of the heroes all froze at that before rushing towards where Izuku fell, only to notice golden energy flowing out of his body. He still has stamina. Hawks mumbled as he tried stepping forward. Aizawa immediately stopped him, however. Suddenly, energy exploded out of Izuku's body. Stop him! Shouted All Might. But before Aizawa could do anything, the energy spread around as everything started returning to its previous state. The rubble was surrounded with golden energy for a few seconds. Until they started levitating and taking form. Every crack around slowly closed as the area seemed to return to its original state before he destroyed it. Even the buildings that weren't destroyed got fixed as the windows cracks disappeared, and so did any damage that was caused. He's fixing everything. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗟 shouted. Almost. Aizawa answered as he pointed at the damage done to his body. He's fixing the damage he caused. Izumo added. Even when he isn't awake, he would never accept causing this much destruction. Izumo mumbled as he walked towards Izuku and sat down next to him. His eyes slightly teared up as he held his brother and placed the golden piece on his chest. It was a necklace in a heart shape. Inside the heart was a picture of both brothers. It was the necklace they shared. So all of that happened because his brother was hurt? Hawks asked, still confused. Aizawa nodded at him. Izumo just held his brother close to his body as he slightly sobbed. So you do care about me, baby brother? The day when Izuku lost control ended up staining everyone's minds. The civilians who were present in the surrounding area were shockingly the most accepting. He's just a kid who lost control. Not to mention, before anything could happen, we were all surrounded by shields, and not a single person was hurt. Also, he fixed everything after that happened, so there's really no reason to keep commenting on it. A woman who was interviewed stated. The other civilians who weren't present weren't as accepting. He shouldn't plan on being a hero if he's going to cause this much destruction only because someone was hurt. He's like a demon in an angel's clothing. No real hero would ever allow himself to cause this much damage. I really think you should reconsider who they allow into their classes. Either kick that boy out or place some collar to shock him whenever he's out of control or something. The pro-heroes also seem to have faced issues after the teens' destructive event as the public started questioning their ability to save them after realizing that they could barely deal with a student. We weren't going dull out so that we don't cause more destruction. Had we wanted to defeat him, we easily could have. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗟 said. The world should be glad that there's such a powerful upcoming generation of heroes. We can work on ourselves to improve, but everyone should know that the teens' power isn't a nightmare but rather a dream for the country. Hawks stated. The public is taking this way too far. It was a kid who was overreacting. Had we been fighting a villain, it would be completely different. All Might enthusiastically answered. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗟 only ignored the questions surrounding the fight, simply replying with, "It's not something worth commenting on." Throughout all of that, Izuku remained in the hospital. The teen was passed out and unable to wake up due to how much stress his body suddenly went through. Throughout the week, Aizawa, alongside the teen's classmates, all took turns visiting Izuku. The one person who remained there for the entire week was Izumo as he'd head from the hospital to school and then from the school back to the hospital. He's a strong child. He'd make a great hero. Hawks had stated as he suddenly entered through the window. Hawks, what are you doing here? Izumo asked in shock as he stared at the hero. Came to visit and check on the kid. He caught my interest? Hawks answered. Izumo just nodded at that. However, he knew that there was something else behind that. After the week was done, Izuku finally stirred awake. He moved for a few seconds before slowly opening his eyes. He looked around for a second before he started heavily coughing. Izuku! He heard someone shout. He stared at the source and saw Izumo standing next to the door. The green-haired boy quickly rushed at his brother. He immediately embraced him and pat his back. "Oh my God, you're finally awake," the boy mumbled as he tightened his hug around his brother. Izuku only coughed back until he managed to get some words out. "Why are you get off of me?" he shouted. "Just shut up and stop acting tough, baby brother. I saw how much you did for me and I have this." Izumo spoke as he got out something out of his pocket. It was Izuku's necklace. The white-haired teen's eyes widened as he felt himself blushing in embarrassment. He quickly snatched the necklace away and looked down. Izumo let go of him and immediately poured him a glass of water from the table that was near them. "I'm sorry," Izumo mumbled as he ruffled close to himself, hugging his legs. Izumo just stared with confusion before sitting next to him. "You have nothing to be sorry about, Izuku. I'm the one who's sorry." He spoke. "I couldn't talk to you. I couldn't get myself to face you after attempting to commit. I felt weak-minded whenever you came up to me." Izuku spoke. Izumo's eyes immediately widened at that. He quickly held his brother's hand and spoke up. "You're not weak, Izuku. We were the ones who pushed you too far. Had I known that anyone hurt you or inappropriately touched you, I would have ended all of them. I never wanted you to get hurt. That's why I tried pushing you away from becoming a hero. I couldn't see you ending up injured for your weakness, but I recently realized that you were never weak. You were always the strongest person I've known. The teen 𝗵𝗃 could only break down in tears, making his brother move closer to give him a hug, this time receiving one back in return. Did I hurt anyone after I lost control? All I remember is attacking that bird creature and your parents. Izuku asked. Nope. You didn't hurt anyone. Well, you did hurt the 4 top pro heroes, but they'll move on, it's not much. Oh, also, you told mom and dad to give you back your brother, which was fun to hear. Izumo taunted. Oh, Izuku mumbled to himself. You called me your brother like 5 times. It felt nice. Izumo stated, making Izuku nod, still blushing in embarrassment. I would love it if I get to be your big brother again. Izumo added as his eyes teared up. That seemed to finally break through into Izuku, who tightened the hug around Izumo while sobbing. Me too. I would love that too, big brother. The boy stuttered out. Izumo could just smile at that. He had his brother back. The two just stayed sad in peace for a few minutes until Izuku sighed out. How's everyone in class? He asked. None of them are that hurt. The villains escaped after they saw your breakdown. Everyone is training currently. Izumo explained. Training? What for? Asked the white-haired. Oh, the school sports festival. Izumo answered. We're joining the festival. Izuku shouted. Yup, isn't it so crazy? We have a week left to train. You can learn to use your wings until then. The boy stated. Izuku looked around in shock until he saw 2 huge wings, each of which nearly his size, extending from his shoulder blades. Oh, my wings! He mumbled. Izumo just smiled as he touched one of them. We thought you were gonna become an angel in heaven. I guess we got one part right. The boy giggled out. Izuku chuckled back and nodded. They definitely nearly got one part right. Izuku hated every second that followed after leaving the hospital. Everyone seemed to recognize him as people mumbled about him once they saw his face. It's that 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵 kid. He definitely doesn't look as evil as he acts. It's shocking that such a pretty boy could cause such damage, so I have to deal with everyone's bullcrap whether I'm quirkless or not. He mumbled as he stepped into his class. Izuku-kun. Momo was the first to announce as the boy stepped in, his wings dragging on the ground behind him. Hi guys. He shouted enthusiastically. Was he more positive after whatever the hell that was? The students all rushed towards him as everyone started complimenting his strength. It was scary, dude, but really cool. Kaminari shouted as he shook the teen around. Why yeah, thanks I guess. Izuku shouted back as he raised a thumbs up. Never thought you'd do that for Yagi bro. I'm scared of fighting him now. I don't think I can survive that attack you did. Kirishima exclaimed as he hardened his hand. Yeah, you went ham after they hurt Yagi-kun. Mina added. Protective baby brother. Izumo taunted as he stuck his tongue out while sat on a table. Izuku just rolled his eyes. Don't take it for granted, big brother. He spat out as he stuck his tongue back. Everyone stared at the two with confusion. Since when? 𝗧𝗪 cut himself off when he saw Izumo glaring at him. 5 more days until the festival. Izuku asked as he sat down next to his brother. Yup. It's going to be great for us. We will have the chance to show our abilities to the pro heroes there, and we'll have the chance to have internships with them, giving us the choice of becoming sidekicks. Momo ranted. Izuku just nodded at that before the class continued chatting around. There was one hero he was currently extremely interested in. Once that scholastic day was done, the students were about to head out when they noticed that the door was blocked. Who are these? Mina shouted. They're the students of the other classes. They're obviously here to scout the competition. Bakugo spat out. The door opened as a bunch of students started screaming out at the students. So these are the students who everyone is talking about. Seems like a bunch of 𝗵𝗃𝗶𝗀. A blonde boy exclaimed. The F did you say, blondie? Don't let me blast your butt all the way to hell. Bakugo shouted. The blonde boy just smirked at that before shouting. Well, aren't you a heroic person threatening someone? Though to be fair, no one here is heroic. Didn't he like destroy 4 buildings? He added as he pointed at Izuku. Everyone's eyes widened at that. Izuku just scoffed. Would you like to be punched by the reason he did all of that? Izumo asked as he stepped forward. What? The boy asked out. Izumo scoffed before he got ready to punch him, only for Izuku to stop him. Taking out your insecurities on people is embarrassing. The white-haired boy mumbled. The blondie heard everyone mumbling at him after that, making him feel embarrassed. He was about to rush at Izuku when a girl knocked him out after smacking his neck. Excuse us. He doesn't realize what he says sometimes, she stated as she took him out. A bunch of other students seemed to attempt to enter, but the only one who managed to was a purple-haired, tired-looking boy. This is the hero course. Must be nice being a group of blessed teens with powerful quirks, he stated. Excuse me. Izuku was the one to ask. Izumo was the one to hold his shoulder to stop him. You heard me, Mr. Angel Wings. The boy stated. You obviously have no idea what you're talking about. I was quirkless for 13 years of my life. I activated my quirk after a suicide attempt that pushed my body to the point where I had to activate it to survive. I was never blessed when my friends started bullying me, neither when my parents started neglecting me. You have no idea who you're talking to. Izuku spat out. Everyone's eyes widened at that. None of them knew about that. The following day was rather quiet as everyone stared at Izuku with either pity or shock. The rest of the days passed by rather quickly as Izuku and the others had nothing to do besides train and hear Izuku explain ht whenever he was asked. That's why the class of students was heading towards the center of the sports festival stadium while everyone cheered for them. It feels awkward looking at the amount of people here, Izumo mumbled as he walked behind Izuku. I know, especially considering that they know us as the class who survived USJ. Oh, and they know me as the boy who destroyed a bunch of villains and nearly hurt hundreds. Izuku replied as they finally reached their intended point. The other classes were also introduced, though this time they weren't cheered for as hard as the first class was. And now, for the introductory speech. Midnight announced while in her hero costume. The entire crowd erupted in chaos after seeing her. Someone should really talk to Ms. Midnight about her costume, Kirishima stated. It should come with a warning. Kaminari added. Is it even approved for a high school event? Tokoyami asked. Izuku just rolled his eyes at that, not interested in the slightest. We cab always try to get you Hawks oiled up to present instead. Izumo giggled out. Izuku's face went bright red at that. Shucks. What do I have to do with Hawks? Also, don't talk as if you're as straight as a ruler. He spat out, making his twin chuckle even harder. For the students' pledge, we have Izuku Yagi of Class 1A, shouted the heroine. Izuku gulped slightly before rushing at the stage where Midnight stood. Everyone started mumbling about him, students and spectators alike. I hope that this festival will be a great way to show our powers and to prove to the world that the upcoming generation of heroes is more than worthy and capable of protecting them. Oh, and I hope that everyone gets a chance to shine equally so that no one gets left out. The teen stated before stepping away from the mic, simple, mindful, and short. You're going the safest route in order to catch the attention of the heroes, aren't you? Asked the heroine. Izuku shrugged his shoulders and smiled. Maybe. If it works out, then yes. If it doesn't, then I'm just lying, Miss Midnight. He answered, making the woman chuckle. Some students and people in the crowd started cheering loudly for the boy. Others continued shooting daggers of glares and mumbling about him. Well, that was a heroic small speech from the students' representative. However, let's get into the real deal, shall we? Midnight said with a giggle, making the crowd erupt in chaos. You all are going to taste my feathers. I need him to notice me. Otherwise, I'll lose a huge portion of my abilities. No one else can help me with this. Only he can. Izuku mumbled, now, for the first game of this awaited festival, we're going to have a screen showed behind Midnight, showing a bunch of names that kept spinning until they stopped at one. Obstacle race. She shouted. Izuku smirked at that. Izumo just stared with some fear. That wasn't his best field. All 11 classes will be participating in this race. The students will have to run a 4-kilometer race around the stadium. I don't feel like restraining anyone in this part. The woman said she last part with a stuck lick to her lips. Izuku could swear that he saw some dude pass out at that. As long as you remain on the course, you're free to do as your heart, she added. Izuku and the others nodded at that. So fights and offensive attacks are allowed. Izuku mumbled as he and everyone else headed to the starting gate. Green lights were above the entrance they were in, and Izuku watched slowly as all three started fading, one after the other. Good luck, 𝗧𝗵𝗲. You can't lose here. A race isn't where you shine, so you should push yourself forward in order to prove to the world that you can be a great symbol of peace, Izuku said. However, before his brother could answer, the teen shocked everyone by extending his wings and smirking before holding Izumo's hands. The last light finally went off, and his smirk widened. He immediately took off while holding Izumo. Once out of the gate and in front of everyone, he let go of the teen and smiled. Good luck, big brother. I can't provide any more help. Mike kept shouting via the speakers while the students rushed through. Izuku was ahead of everyone, followed by Todoroki, who froze the ground and used his ice to follow him. Everyone who seemed to escape was 1A students who had already dealt with Todoroki's quirk. Suddenly, Izuku saw a huge robot approaching him. Oh please, using the same tricks that we dealt with previously. I expected a lot more. Izuku smiled before passing through the robot, cutting it in half using his wings. Those wings, how very hot. A bunch of other robots rushed after that one, making the teen gulp. This is gonna waste so much time. He mumbled as he stared at the army of robots. Sorry, everyone. He shouted before sending a bunch of explosions, shattering the robots and leaving behind rubble to block the students' paths. He then pushed himself upward so that he could fly above all of the robots. Some were a pain in the butt as they tried sending attacks his way, but they were nothing that a shield couldn't stop. Izuku then continued flying away, but not before noticing Izumo raising himself upward on a metallic piece that he levitated after him. Good job, big brother. Izuku shouted as he flicked his wings again, propelling himself faster. He continued repelling himself over and over, only followed by Izumo, Bakugo, and Todoroki. That went on for the entirety of the robot-filled stage of the exam. In a few minutes, he reached the second stage, a canyon with ropes that the students expected to balance themselves on until they could reach the hills that connect them together. Izuku smirked as a plan crossed his mind. He started flying and raised his arm. Sorry, everyone. They will only last for a few minutes. Izuku shouted as spikes of energy surrounded the ropes and Gs hills, blocking anyone from standing on or holding them. He then continued flying towards the third obstacle race with the students, who had abilities that allowed them to fly or jump from the beginning to the end of the canyon, following him. Not as fast now, baby brother. Izumo stated. He was right. Izuku was slowing down by the second. His wings were still untrained enough, and flying with such speed easily fatigued them. I don't need my speed only so that I can finish the race, big brother. Izuku stated with a smirk. Izumo looked confused for a second, but Izuku just smirked harder as he pointed at the ground beneath them. They were in the third obstacle, the minefield. Hope you all love some explosions. I know someone does. Izuku taunted as he sent a straight line of energy, causing the mines behind him to explode, sending everyone flying backwards. He, on the other hand, kept flying forward while still sending energy blasts to block everyone. Izumo, however, managed to use that to his advantage as the explosions pushed him forward while still on his metallic piece. The green-haired boy was about to cross the finish line when Izuku zoomed in, entering it less than a second before his brother. Woohoo and the Yagi twins score in the top 2. What a great show of power from the twins. Mike shouted. More people started cheering this time. Izuku just took it as them cheering for his brother. Cheer up, lil bro, you just won the first part, Izumo said as he put a hand around his shoulders. Izuku mumbled as he stared at the crowd. Do you think they'll ever forgive me for losing control? He asked. Izumo just sighed at that. They will. If they don't, I'll force them to. Izumo said with a scoff. I don't think that's how it works. Izuku giggled out as he and his brother saw the rest rushing into the winning stadium. The first game of the festival is done with, so let's check the stats. In number 1, we have Izuku Yagi, followed by his twin brother Izumo Yagi in second place. In the third and fourth places came Shudo Todoroki and Katsuki Bakugo, respectively. The students of 1A seem to shine the brightest so far. Midnight announced. The students of 1A, who passed, immediately started cheering while the rest of the students stared with glaring eyes. All in all, 42 students managed to pass, most of which were 1A and 1B students. Now, for the students who managed to pass, you'll get your chance to push yourselves to the center of light and attention in the cavalry battle. Midnight announced after the spinning wheel showed the name of the game behind her. The students immediately got to mumbling. Izuku just stood still, confused. He had no idea what those were. Now, you participants should form groups from 2 to 4 people as you see fit. Each group will have a point value to it. The value is the summation of every member's points as each player has a point battle relative to their obstacle race score. The points will go up by 5, starting from the bottom. However, this rule doesn't apply to the contestant who scored first as his value points are 10 million. Exclaimed Midnight. The last 2 words made Izuku understand just exactly what winning has put him through as everyone SHT daggers at the boy. Each team will be handed a headband with the number relative to its group's points. Swipe as many headbands as possible and have them wrapped around your neck. You may use your quirks as much as you like, and you have no limits except vitally damaging the other contestants. You will have 10 minutes to look for your teammates and 15 for the actual battle. Midnight ranted. Izuku sighed out at that. He already hated that battle. So, baby brother, wanna work together? Izumo asked as he tapped Izuku's shoulder. Is that a question? The white-haired answered with a smile, receiving a smile in return. Ida, Yururika, wanna join us? Izumo shouted at his friends. I'm sorry, friend, but I'm gonna have to reject your offer. I can't keep following behind you simply for being powerful. Otherwise, I'll never get stronger. Ida stated. Izumo seemed let down at that, but Izuku wasn't shocked in the slightest. All of his friends were shooting daggers at them. It's not shocking. We scored the highest. We'll be targeted, and no one purposely chooses to follow this route. Only you seem interested enough to do so, Izumo. Izuku mumbled. Oh, there you are. I'm glad to see that you're still alone. Let me be on your team, number 1. A voice announced as a girl walked towards Izuku. You're so close. The boy mumbled before stepping backwards. Suddenly, the girl started rambling about using him as a test subject for her babies to catch the eye of the best pro heroes. I'd be glad to that your equipment later. However, my brother there could use some more help. His hands always get shattered whenever he's using his quirk, so I was wondering if you could dash. Izuku also went on to ramble about equipment and powers. He's gonna waste the 15 minutes talking, isn't he? Yururika asked. He knows that he's enough to deal with everyone here. He accepted me joining because I'm his brother, not because he needed my help. The same goes for you and May over there. He has you here because I want you and he won't deny my orders. He has hers because she asked and sparked his interest. That's the type of person he is. He'll accept anyone the moment they have a connection to him, or they spark his interest in the slightest. Izumo rambled. The girl could only nod while Izuku and 𝗵𝗃 kept chatting. In a few minutes, the clock started ticking and everyone got ready. Yururika, Izuku, and May all stood on the ground with Izuku on their backs. We won't focus on the offensive much. Instead, we'll focus on keeping our personal headband safe. Our score is more than enough to make us pass in first place. All right, students. Now that the team formations are done with, let's get this party started. Mike shouted as the crowd cheered heavily. Start in 3, 2, and Owen, the hero announced. Once the number reached, all of the teams rushed forward, ready to attack Izuku's team. The teens smirked at that before noticing the ground turning into quicksand. We have you down. A member of 1B shouted as he and his team rushed at Izuku. Need my babies? May asked. Nope, thank you. The boy answered before energy encased his entire team. The energy took the shape of a bubble that then started levitating upwards. Let's see what you can do now. The boy taunted as the energy shield glue in the sun. Suddenly he felt Bakugo behind him, ready to explode him, while Todoroki sent an ice attack at him. The teen closed his eyes for a second, unsure what to do as he wasn't fast enough while encased in energy. He stared at his team, only to find them staring wide-eyed. The energy orb was suddenly floating meters above where it usually stood. "What the dash?" Izuku mumbled as he felt himself getting dizzy. "What happened? We just appeared here." Mei shouted as she looked down at the studium. Everyone was so small that they looked like ants from where Izuku stood. That remained the case for the entire exam, as the time finished while Izuku and his team casually teleported from place to place while the white-haired teen felt more and more dizzy. "Is he done throwing up?" Yuruka asked. Izumo just shook his head. "He's been in the bathroom ever since Present Mike announced our win. This ability of his seems to have a huge backlash." "Have you ever seen him use that power?" Mei asked. "He never fails to surprise me with new stuff over and over." After minutes on end of throwing up and clutching his stomach in pain, Izuku finally got himself to step out of the bathroom stall. "You look roughed up, baby brother," Izumo said as he ruffled his hair. "That SHT drained me. Thank the heavens that we get a break before the battle tournament. I don't think I would have been able to fight anyone in that state." Izuku mumbled as he turned on the sink. He then splashed his face with water as he let out a sigh. "We, Todoroki-kun's team, Kaken's team, with the teams of the blondie and the purple-haired boy are the ones who won. You might get the chance to fight the two brats." Izumo spoke. What about Todoroki-kun? He seemed like he really wanted my headband." Izuku stated as he turned to lean on the wall. "Yeah, he seemed he asked to meet us alone, but you were busy dying here." Izumo chuckled out. "Oh, rude." Izuku shot back as he stuck out his tongue. His twin just smiled at him before the two headed to where 𝗧𝗱 waited for them. Once there, the two twins stood in front of 𝗧𝗱, expecting the teen to immediately start talking. However, 𝗧𝗱 just stood still as he stared at them, making both feel uncomfortable. "After you lost control in USJ, you fought my father, didn't you?" 𝗧𝗱 directed the question at Izuku, receiving a nod in return. "When he came back home, he was so mad. Not only because you stood up to him, but also because you were somehow related to All Might," 𝗧𝗱 added. Both teens froze at that. Their father's identity was supposed to be a secret, so how the hell did 𝗧𝗱 figure that out? "My father heard All Might and his wife talking to you as though they've known you for a long time, and I already felt something weird whenever you two used your quirks. Whenever you're ready to attack, your powers hold the same feeling as All Might, so what the hell is your relationship with him?" The boy continued. Izumo was about to step forward and speak when Izuku stopped him. "Why do you care so much about All Might? Also, what does our relationship to him affect you or your father?" Izuku asked. The two expected hesitation, but 𝗧𝗱 immediately spoke up. "If you two are related to him, then we're meant to be rivals." "Why?" Izuku asked again. "It's a long story. If I explain it, I expect answers in return," Todoroki stated. "Zuku, we can't dash." Izumo was cut off by his brother's smirk. "Why not? I mean, they are the top two heroes. If anyone holds anything against him, we'll have something to hold against Endeavor." Izuku answered. Izumo sighed at that before slowly nodding. "You have my promise," Izuku said. "My father has always hated All Might. He has always wanted to surpass him, but the stronger he got, the clearer he noticed the difference in power. To fix that weakness that his heat caused, he groomed my mother into a quirk marriage so that he could create an offspring with an ice and fire quirk to cancel each other. He wanted to create a weapon to surpass All Might," 𝗧𝗱 stated. Izumo was taken back by that, but Izuku just remained dull-looking while he stared at the teenager, expecting the continuation. "After 3 kids, I was born with the quirk he wanted. Because of that, I was excluded from my siblings and from any interaction that he found distracting," 𝗧𝗱 continued. Both teens just nodded at that, not having anything to say. "For my mom, I have no memories besides her crying. I still remember her calling my fireside unbearable as she poured boiling hot water on my face," 𝗧𝗱 added. "Oh," Izuku mumbled while his twin Jussie stared with scared wide eyes. My father put her in a mental hospital after that, and I vowed never to use his fire in battle since then. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟 alleged. You made me break that vow. When you were levitating and my ice couldn't reach you, I tried blasting you with fire. I failed at keeping my vow because of you, which ticked me off, and you being somehow related to the man that my father did all of that because is ticking me off even more. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟 finally finished. The twins just stared at each other for a second before letting out a sigh. Izuku was the one to stare into the boy's eyes, his white eyes holding tenderness that 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 could barely recognize. I'm sorry that happened to you, Todoroki-kun, but it's not the time for me to waste time, so I'll finish my end of the promise. The white-haired stated. We're All Might's sons. Izumo stated, shocking the teen, which was obvious enough by his widening eyes. We were born equally. Two boys with identical features and similar personalities, and we were treated equally. However, all of that changed when we went to check our quirks a few days after Izumo showed signs of telekinesis similar to 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗏. Izuku started. After that day, everyone changed towards Izuku. We found out he was quirkless, and my parents dealt with it in the completely wrong way. They deemed him useless and started neglecting him. For 10 years, Izuku was never invited to anything family-related, and whenever he was present, my parents were being straight-up abusive towards him, both physically and verbally. Izumo ranted, his eyes slightly tearing up. All Might and 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗏. Abusive? 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟 asked, his tone loud and shocked. You're way too shocked considering your father's pathetic behavior. If the number 2 hero is an abusive piece of CRP, the number 1 and 4 heroes are no better. Izuku said. But he's the symbol of peace. He's the one I was supposed to exceed. The boy shouted. Symbol of lies if you ask me. The symbol of peace would notice his son getting bullied and beaten in school on a daily basis. He'd notice his son throwing up whenever he returned home. He'd notice his son staying away from any men. He'd notice his son feeling uncomfortable when any guy touches him. Izuku ranted. Touches. Were 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟's breath cut off? His heart felt heavy, way too heavy. Yet made me feel disgusting. Everything made me feel disgusting. Izuku answered. Izumo had gone mute, simply attempting to hide his tears. Izuku touched his shoulder to calm him down, but the boy immediately took him in for a hug. I'm still sorry for pushing you away and never defending you, the green-haired mumbled. It's fine, Izumo. Let's just continue this. Izuku mumbled as he patted his back. Is that why you're always angry whenever All Might is around? Is it why you kept shouting at him and 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗏 to give you your brother back when you were out of control? 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟 asked. Yeah, I guess. I don't remember anything about when that happened, but whatever the hell was controlling me probably knew that I hated Izumo staying with them. Izuku answered. So you forgive him? 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟 asked. Izumo. I never held a grudge against him to forgive him. I would never hate my older brother. Izuku answered, making both boys crack a smile. His parents, however, I will never forgive. It's not like they even apologized. Izuku added. My old man also hasn't apologized to anyone. It's like he doesn't know he messed up. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟 shot back. Yeah. I guess the sons of the top 2 pro heroes are both expecting more than they get, despite them supposedly having everything. Izuku said. What do you plan on doing? You're basically alone now. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟 stated. I'm alive, and I have my brother with me. I don't need them, and I'm going to win this sports festival to prove to them that the quirkless, useless kid they despised isn't as useless as they said he was. Izuku answered. Then we both have similar goals. I will win this without my fire to prove to that old man that I don't need his powers. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟 stated. You shouldn't do that though. If you do that, you're gonna let all the abuse your mom and siblings went through go down the drain. You refraining from using your fire won't prove anything to him. It will just weaken your full potential and force him to do more sick plans in order to reach his goal. Izuku ranted. But I hate his side. I hate looking or feeling like him. I hate being related to him in any way. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟 spat out. Well, I understand how you feel, Todoroki-kun. Izumo spoke, confusing both teens. When Izuku died, the boy was cut off by 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟's shocked expression. Oh, I forgot to mention that. A specific someone told me that I should take a swan dive off of the roof of a building and wish for a quirk in my next life. I didn't do like he said, as I still had a bit of hope. However, when I was nearly suffocated to death by a weird slug villain, I wasn't saved by All Might and left safe. No, I was saved and then taunted by the hero for being vulnerable enough to nearly die in that way, and then told that a weakling like myself could never become a hero. That broke something in me, and seeing my father exposing his identity as that hero who broke my trust shattered me even more. Izuku ranted. So, after he did that, you committed? 𝗧𝗪𝗧 asked. Yes. It wasn't from a building but rather from a cliff since I didn't want anyone to find me. But when I did that, I found out that I actually did have a quirk that activated in order to save my life. Izuku explained. My old body was left behind, and this new body was created to fit my abilities. Izuku stated. Izumo's eyes widened at that. He didn't know that. He thought someone created a fake body for him or something. So since that body is no longer yours, you don't even hold their genes. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 asked, receiving a nod. Then you two are no longer brothers, right? He asked. Izumo's entire demeanor changed at that as he looked down, his eyes getting flooded with tears. We are. My genes don't define who I am. I chose him as my brother. Izuku explained. Izumo's eyes got even more watery at that, causing Izuku to pat his again, trying to calm him. Your genes don't define you? 𝗧𝗪𝗧 asked, receiving another nod. I'm someone who wants to be a hero. My parents and their genes won't affect that. Only I choose how I live my life, and only you decide how you live yours. Izuku shot at him. That's a nice way of looking at it. He mumbled. You were saying something. I don't think that I heard any story about your quirks after my death. Izuku said as he stared at Izumo. The boy shook away his tears and let out a sigh before speaking. Yeah, after Izuku passed, my body also went through changes, and we realized that I had another quirk, the body-enhancing one that breaks my bones. Izumo started. One for all. Izuku thought to himself. He forgot that the boy had to lie about some stuff like that quirk. I stopped using both quirks when that happened, and I also vowed to no longer become a hero. I felt like I wasn't worthy of becoming one after the person I promised to become a hero with passed, and I couldn't save him. Izumo explained as his eyes drifted at Izuku, whose eyes widened with shock. But something in the back of my head kept telling me that Izuku would have hated to see me stray away from our dream career, so I returned to heroics, and I returned to using my quirks. I initially only relied on my telekinesis and never physically fought, but when I found out that Izuku was alive, I decided to train the latter, so I can show my baby brother that I have the power to protect him. Izumi ranted. Both boys' expressions softened at that, especially Izuku, who teared up at him. And I promise you, Izuku, the boy said as he turned to his brother, his eyes also tearing up. I won't fail you this time, and I will protect you, even if it's the last thing I do. He added. Izuku finally broke at that. He embraced the boy, crashing him between his arms. The latter returned the hug, adding just as much pressure. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 watched the interaction while awkwardly standing away, unsure what to do. You're free to join, Izuku said as he opened his wings. 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗧's confused expression was absolutely priceless. Come on, it's just a hug, Izumo added as he also opened one arm for the team to join him. Are you sure? I mean, it's like your brothers. And 𝗬𝗧𝗪 was rambling way too much, so Izuku just moved his wing to push the team forward as the two embraced him. Welcome to the family, Todoroki. Izuku giggled out. Family? The boy shouted, still not returning the hug. Well, we all have shitty parents, so we're basically twins now, Izumo explained. But that's not how this works, 𝗧𝗪𝗧 exclaimed. Oh, come on, dude. It's like hypothetical or whatever. If anyone understands you, it's us, so that makes us closer than the rest and whatever, so we're basically brothers. Izumo shouted again. Oh well, I have always wondered what it was like actually having brothers who I could spend time with. Mumbled. Great. Then, welcome to the family. Izuku giggled. The boy cracked a smile as well and finally joined into the jug, embracing the two. Family, all right ladies and gentlemen, the 16 students who passed the cavalry battle will be showing us their powers on full display in a battle tournament now. 𝗵𝘃𝗃 announced. The crowd's cheers could be heard for miles, but the voices of the contestants still seemed to overshadow them as their determination glowed above everything else. The students will be placed in one-on-one competitions, and they will use their special abilities to either knock out their opponents, max them step out of the stage boundaries, or force them to give up. Now, if you're ready to see those special battles, let me hear you scream, 𝗵𝘃𝗃. The crowd kept shouting over and over, making communication nearly impossible for the contestants. Now, students, come closer to draw out lots to see your first matches. You may enjoy the recreational games that the school has placed. You may either join the activities or prepare for battle. The choice is yours. Now, for the first team 𝗵𝘃𝗃 was cut off by Ijiro raising his hand. Excuse me. I apologize, but I'm withdrawing. The boy spoke, shocking everyone. What? Are you nuts? This is a rare chance that you might never have again to be scouted by a hero agency. Izuku exclaimed as he stared with shock at his classmate. It's just not right. I don't remember anything from the cavalry battle besides the end. It's that guy's quirk for sure. Ojiro exclaimed as he pointed at the purple-haired teen from before. Izuku stared at the boy for a second before scoffing. I've thought this through, and I'm sure of my choice. No way am I going to advance only by being someone's puppet. He spoke up. Nearly everyone started telling him that he was overreacting and that he wasn't taking the right choice, but he didn't bother listening to any of them and instead insisted on his choice. My name is 𝗫𝗫𝗃𝗁 from Class 1B. I also withdraw. No matter how powerful I am, the way I pass isn't acceptable and goes against the rules of the festival. Another boy said as he stepped forward. How noble, makes my body feel sparkly. 𝗬𝗓𝗻𝗲 said, followed by a bunch of people agreeing that their choices were rather noble and thoughtful. Everyone mumbled for a few seconds before 𝗵𝘃𝗃 decided on what to do. What you're saying is so naive, boys. It's turning me on. You're both withdrawn. The heroine shouted. 𝗵𝗃𝗃. Didn't need to hear that, like at all. Izuku mumbled. Meh, want me to get --Izumo was cut off by a glare. One more comment about Hawks or any oiled-up man for that matter, and I'm gonna make sure that you won't be able to participate in this tournament or any other, big brother. Izuku threatened. The boy shivered slightly at that before sticking his tongue out at his brother, who looked away with a huff and a giggle. Now, since 2 students have resigned, we will have to choose 2 students from the team that scored 5th in the exam. 𝗵𝘃𝗃 stated. However, the leader of that team seemed to disagree as she and her fellow team members shook their heads at her. We were frozen most of the time, so it's pointless. I'd suggest you choose 2 students from a team that fought the entire time, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏's team. She stated. With that said, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 and his teammate, 𝗵𝗃𝗃, replaced the 2 withdrawn contestants, and the draw started. The matches in order were Izuku vs 𝗔𝗂𝗵𝗲𝗃 vs 𝗬𝗓𝗃𝗲 vs Denki and Iida vs 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 vs Momo and Todoroki vs 𝗧𝗏 vs 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 and 𝗵𝘃𝗃𝗏 vs Uraraka. I'm dealing with that 𝗫𝗏 guy. Izuku spoke. Yeah, you are. Aren't you excited? A voice said. Izuku turned to look at it, only to find the purple-haired teen looking at him. He was suddenly cut off by Ojiro's tail wrapping around his mouth. Don't answer him. He'll control your mind using his quirk. Ojiro said. The purple-haired teen smirked at that and walked away. So that's how he controlled you? Just by making you talk? Izuku asked, receiving a nod. With a sigh, he nodded. He and the rest of the students all went to take a longer break and to get ready while their friends had fun with the recreational games. The 𝗫𝗏𝗃 guy wants to win so that he can enter the hero course, as homeroom teachers welcome those of the general studies if they show great strength. Izuku said as he sipped on his water. Yeah, I heard. Kaken was mumbling about wanting to defeat you. Izumo shot back. Izuku accidentally choked on the water in his hand at that, but he quickly shook his head and nodded. We're on the complete opposite of the chart. If he plans on fighting me, he's gonna have to win against everyone on his side, you and Shoto-kun included. Izuku answered. His twin could only nod. Izuku was confident in his ability to win, and no matter who he would be fighting, he'd be sure to win. Good luck, baby brother, but I promise that I won't hold back if we fave each other. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 shouted. I never expected you to, big brother. He answered before standing up. He was starting soon, and he was sure to shine. I will need to defeat 𝗫𝗪. Following him would be either Mina or 𝗬𝗵𝗲, each of which has a different fight style, but they both will be unable to stand up for long against me. It will probably be Iida that I fight after that, and his speed is going to be annoying, but he's still not the most powerful in long range, so I should be able to defeat him as well. The issue is in the finals. Kirishima and Tetsu are both out of the question. I will be facing either Kaken, Shotokuin, or 𝗬𝗪𝗲, since even if Uraraka somehow defeats Kaken, she stands no chance against Shotokuin. We know that you're powerful to defeat me with that quirk or yours, but ignoring your fight and enemy is still rude. 𝗫𝗪𝗀 taunted. Izuku looked at him for a second, still waiting for Mike to start. Now, for the first fight of the tournament, please cheer for Izuku Yagi and Hitoshi Shinsu. Mike shouted, followed by the crowd doing the same. Start in 3, 2, and 1. He shouted. Izuku immediately rushed, but Shinso managed to tick him off. You're powerful, and your quirk is useful as hell. People like you are the ones allowed to show their pride, not people like that monkey that gave up. Shinso shouted. Izuku was way too ticked off by that, but he didn't say a single word. Ojiro warned him not to. Instead, he spread his wings and started levitating. An energy orb appeared in his arms and started increasing in size. As the orb increased, wind started surrounding the teen and twirling around the ball. See what I mean? People like you have enough power to casually make others tremble. You can make anyone give up simply by entering the battlefield. You have the powers of a hero, unlike me, unlike anyone with a villainous quirk. Shinso shouted. Izuku didn't even answer and just raised the energy orb, ready to blast it, when Shinso looked down in defeat. I'm sorry for what's happened to you. He thought to himself before canceling the energy orb, causing it to vanish into thin air. He closed his wings and walked towards the teen, only for the poplar-haired boy to rush at him ready to attack. I won't give up, he shouted. Izuku just smiled before shielding himself from the teen's punch. His eyes met the teen's, and his aura softened, making the other teen feel warm for a second before he got punched back right outside the boundaries. Powerful, Shinso. However, you complain more than you fight. You're allowing your quirk to be a burden instead of a weapon. I will gladly train you if you allow me to. Izuku ranted as he raised his hand at the teen, healing the injury that his punch caused on his stomach. You're so blessed with the heroic quirk you have. Shinso mumbled. I went too far to gain this power. Just let me show you the truth in power, and you'll understand. Izuku said as he extended his hand. The boy scoffed but immediately nodded before extending his hand and slowly shaking the boy's own hand. What an angel! Looks like Izuku Yagi is an angel in appearance and in heart. Mike shouted. Please show him your support and spread your voice. He added, making the crowd erupt in cheering. Izuku looked around, seeing nearly everyone cheering and smiled to himself. It felt good being noticed by this much people. It felt amazing. Izuku headed back to his waiting room, but not before hearing a bunch of people cheering for Shinso and pushing him forward. He smiled to himself and rushed inside to watch the other battles. The fights went one after the other, with most of the results going according to Izuku's expectations. Mina defeated 𝗬𝗪𝗻𝗲 after she tricked him and knocked him out. Iida won after Mei gave up. She had considered the match more of a free advertisement for her gadgets, and when she was done showing all of them, she just gave up and walked out of the boundaries, deeming the boy as the winner. 𝗬𝗲 defeated Denki by making the boy overuse his quirk while she was shielded and safe. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 and Todoroki both finished their matches almost immediately as the former managed to overwhelm Momo continuously, while the latter froze Siro and half of the arena with him, without breaking a sweat. Kirishima and Tetsu both showed great strength and didn't give up. Kirishima only won after the two were put in an arm wrestling match. Bakugo and Uraraka's fight actually shocked most of the students and watchers as the girl managed to put a great fight against the boy, tricking him over and over. However, she was still overpowered and defeated, deeming Bakugo as the winner. With those matches done, the next set of matches started Izuku vs 𝗵𝗃, 𝗧𝗏 vs 𝗵𝗃, 𝗍𝗼𝗄 vs 𝗳𝗏𝗧𝗏, 𝗵𝘃𝗃 vs Kirishima. Most of the crowd cheered as Izuku and 𝗵𝗃 stepped into the arena, the others booing at the wing team. "I know I'm going to lose," the girl spoke. Izuku tilted his head at her, asking for her to continue. "You're a lot more powerful than me, but I'm still not gonna give up without a fight," she announced with a smile. Izuku smirked at that and nodded. "Then neither will I," he smiled. With that, Mike announced the start of the fight. 𝗵𝗃 rushed at the teen, but Izuku focused on the defense as he escaped her and jumped backwards before sending a bunch of energy blasts. Some reached the girl, causing damage, but she continued rushing at him, attempting to attack him, only for Izuku to dodge and start flying. "You still need to work on your long-distance attacks. You stand no chance against someone like me if you only focus on short distance," the boy stated before blasting her again, sending her flying backwards. "I know." Her sentence couldn't continue as Izuku blasted her backwards again. She was about to regain her balance when yet another blast came at her, causing her to fall out of the stage. "And the winner is Izuku Yagi," Mike shouted, the rest of the crowd following in doing the same. "Good job, 𝗵𝗃, but I still suggest what I said," Izuku told the girl as he extended his arm. She immediately took it and stood up, smiling in the process. With that, Izuku returned to the watching room where he watched the rest of the matches. Iida had easily defeated 𝗵𝗃, deeming him as the next match for Izuku. Bakugo and Kirishima's fight was pure defense versus pure offense, where Bakugo overpowered the red-haired. Izumo and Todoroki's match wasn't. They fought. They showed power. They shattered the ground. Izumo had shattered a bone after the other as he used all he had against the other boy. Todoroki had taken their words to heart and used his fire to fight against the green-haired boy. The match had caused so much destruction that the heroes had to step in. However, after the entire thing, Shudo was deemed the winner, leaving Izuku to his brother. "I apologize," Shudo had mumbled after he saw Izuku rushing towards his brother. Izuku looked at him with a puzzled look as he held his brother. "Why are you apologizing? You did great," he exclaimed as energy surrounded Izumo's body, healing him. "I hurt him," Shudo answered. "But it's a fight. That's what's expected. You did what you had to do, and we're both proud of you," Izuku shot back. Todoroki took a step back at that as he felt something warm wrap around his body. It wasn't his fire, though. It was something warm in a nice way. "Promise me to defeat Kakin and face me at the finals," Izuku said before flying away to put his brother in the resting room. "Get away from him," he had heard. His scoff was more than visible for Inko and Toshinori to notice. "My brother is none of your business," he spoke as he left the room, only for his hand to be held. "You've done great so far. Your power is amazing," Inko exclaimed. Izuku snatched his hand away and glared at her again. "Come start caring about me, then. Maybe complimenting me after I get a quirk will show how shitty you are." He said that and rushed away, as his name and Iida's were called. "Now for our semi-finals, we have Tenya Iida versus Izuku Yagi," Mike shouted as the two stepped into the stage. "I have already lost this fight," Iida spoke up. "And why is that?" his classmates asked back. "Do not act dense with me, Izuku-san. I stand no chance against you," the blue-haired mumbled. "And you plan on just giving up?" Izuku questioned, anger dripping with every letter. "Sometimes, a hero's strength is in knowing his limits. I can't defeat you yet, Izuku. However, I promise that one day I will. Even if I don't reach a level where I can defeat you, I promise to be able to at least put up a fight until then," the blue-haired explained, making Izuku sigh in defeat. "Promise? Promise?" With that, the speedster stepped out of the stage, shocking everyone. "Izuku Yagi is the winner," Mike announced. With a sigh, Izuku spread his wings and flew upwards, right towards the announcement room. "May I have the mic for a second?" he asked present Mike, receiving a puzzled look followed by a small nod. "Ladies and gentlemen," the crowd was startled at the voice even more than they were at the action itself. "I am the winner of this round, and I'll gladly accept that," Izuku said, which made some of the people shoot glares his way cause of his bluntness. However, Ida-kun is as much of a winner as I am. He's calculated the chances of defeating me and realized that it isn't possible. Do I agree with that? No, I don't. However, if that's his way of seeing it, then he's choosing to preserve his personal pride and power for later, which is the right thing to do. Ida's eyes widened at that as his mouth swung open. The right hero is the person who thinks everything through, and that's what he did. So, I'd wish if my fellow young hero could receive as much applauding as I did. Hell broke loose at that. More than every other win, the cheers surrounded the stadium and spread all around. Izuku didn't focus on any of that, though. He just focused on the thank yous that Ida had mumbled under his breath. How cute, that voice seemed to have some form of obsession with Izuku at that point. Though to be fair, the teen easily got anyone to obsess over him, even if it wasn't in a positive way. They're not just fighting to progress and win the tournament. They're fighting just to face you. Izumo, who had just recently awakened, told him. Izuku stretched, without a word in return. 𝗧𝗪 wants to fight you so he could fulfill his promise. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 wants to fight you to prove himself to you. Izumo explained. He doesn't need to prove anything. There's no reason for him to prove himself. Izuku shot back. His brother's face slightly fell at that before he let out a sigh. Look, Zuku, I know you're mad, but you promised each other. You had promise rings. Izumo shouted. And he broke that promise when our vow to never hurt each other was broken by him. I have no reason to follow my side of the promise. Izuku answered. The boy sighed at that and nodded. As much as he hated it, his brother was right. And the winner of the second semi-final ice, guess we'll have to face off again. Izuku mumbled. Shudo Todoroki. Shock was definitely expressed at that. I didn't expect that you'd use your fire against 𝗧𝗵𝗃. I'm glad. A giggle left Izuku's mouth as he and the boy he was fighting stepped into the arena. I made a promise to fight you. Shudo answered as they both got ready to start attacking. And start. Shoto immediately started the match with freezing attack, which Izuku answered to by forcefully moving his wings forward, causing a shockwave that shattered it and sent Todoroki flying backwards. Show me all that you've got, Todoroki-gun. The boy nodded at that as he created a shield of ice behind him to prevent him from being blown out of bounds. Energy blasts flew towards him, which he answered to by creating a shield in front of him to block them. However, the shields were shattered as more and more blasts flew towards him, causing it to break. He created another, but a beam of energy flew towards him from Izuku, shattering the ice and blasting Shoto's left hand. I want to see the flames, Todoroki. The boy smirked as he sent yet another blast, shattering the shield behind Shoto and causing the teen to fall to the ground, losing his balance as he felt some blood escaping his shoulder. Your left side is getting more and more hurt. Isn't it about time that you use it? The angel taunted as he created yet another shockwave with his wings, causing Shudo to create yet another wall of ice behind him to stop him from leaving the boundaries. He sent another ice attack at Izuku, only for the latter to reply with continuous energy blasts that shattered the ice. Is that a dash? The sentence was cut short by a fire attack that sent him flying backwards. Heat encased his body, but he just shrugged it off by summoning a shield. The teen shouted as he sent another energy blast at Shoto, which the teen barely dodged only to be met with a blast right to the face, causing him to stumble backwards. Good job, Todoroki-gun, but I am not giving up. He shouted as he sent another shockwave, which the ice user blocked, causing ice debris to fly all around, reaching the people observing their match. Quickly, Izuku created a shield that blocked the ice, ensuring everyone's safety. However, Shoto took that chance to send a fire blast at him, causing him to fly backwards, his shirt completely getting burnt. Would you look at that? What fan service are you teens getting? Mike joked while everyone stared at the shirtless teen, his scars beaming with sweat and blood. Izuku shot a smirk at Shoto before raising his hand, sending a continuous barrage of energy blasts, some of which Shoto shielded himself from. This is pointless. I need to distract him so that I can get close to him. Izuku mumbled to himself before dodging a fire attack from Shoto. He rushed at the teen, only for the latter to shield himself. However, the ice shield was easily broken, and Izuku was right in front of his face, punching him right in the gut. The boy stumbled backwards before fire emerged from his body and attacked Izuku. The latter smirked as he created a shield that then formed into a dome that surrounded Todoroki. The boy stared in confusion for a second as he felt his body getting weaker. "Your energy is amazing. I feel bad having to absorb it." Izuku giggled, making the boy's eyes widen. Before he could react, Izuku had shattered the shield and created a blast that sent the boy flying backwards. However, just as he was about to fall from the arena, he managed to create an ice wall, saving him. "Same trick again. Well, let me do that too." Izuku shouted as he created an energy orb that started sending blasts at Shoto, startling the boy. Something seemed to glitch over Izuku's head, which everyone besides him noticed. He just noticed himself growing faster and stronger. In a second, he was in front of Shoto, and while Ginny Boy managed to light his left side on fire, Izuku didn't stop and just surrounded his fists with energy, punching the boy in the gut yet again, sending him flying. When Shoto was about to create another wall, Izuku rushed again and blasted him, shattering the wall and sending the boy flying out of the arena. The crowd went silent at that. Debris was everywhere. Ice was everywhere. Izuku was left standing with barely half of his remaining intact while the rest of his body was exposed. Shoto was passed out. The people in the arena had seen a battle of a generation. They had seen the battle of the new generation of All Might and Endeavor. The heroes all stared wide-eyed at the arena. "They're their pro level, if not beyond," mumbled Midnight. "The winner is Izuku Yagi." Mick's shout was louder now, and so was the crowd's. Izuku's smile extended from an ear to the other as he stared at everyone cheering for him. They were there for him. They were doing all of that for him. It felt nice. A lot nicer than he expected. As the crowd cheered, he rushed towards Shoto and immediately started healing him, making the boy crack a small smile. "Congratulations," Shoto said. "Thanks. I'm glad I get to fight you, Todoroki-kun." Izuku had answered him. After that he, Todoroki, and Bakugo, who was restrained due to not accepting second place, were taken to a room, waiting to emerge on the stage to receive the first, second, and third medals respectively. Ida was supposed to share the third step with Bakugo, but Izuku was told that an emergency stopped him from doing so. And now, to honor those who stood on the highest steps of the festival, we'll be bringing a special person to give them their special medals because they are special students who deserve the recognition and love. Midnight announced as she giggled. Then, Izuku, alongside the students in the second and third place, emerged seemingly from underground, receiving cheers and shouts of support and love. The boy sighed as he expected who was going to hand them the medals. "All Might," someone shouted, and everyone started screaming as they saw the number one hero jumping towards the students. "I am here," exclaimed the hero. Izuku and Todoroki scoffed at that, which made the latter immediately stare at his friend with confusion before smiling. However, when he turned to look at All Might, his eyes glowed golden, ensuring that the hero knew that he was ready to F up everything in case the hero does anything wrong. "Congratulations, young Bakugo, you've done a great show of strength and speed throughout this sport festival. You've proven to deserve to be between the best of the best. Congratulations on the third place. If anyone deserves to be standing on that high step, it's you," All Might exclaimed as he forced the medal down the teen's neck. He then walked by Izuku, receiving a glare, and stood in front of Todoroki. "Young Todoroki, you're one of the strongest hero students I've ever come across. You strive so hard to be the best, and you've proven to be just that. In fact, young Bakugo, I'd say you would have won had young Izumo not weakened you during your battle," All Might ranted. Todoroki nodded slightly after he noticed Izuku glaring at the man. "Izuku defeated me because he was powerful. Even if I were in my best shape, he would have still been the winner," Todoroki shot back, making Izuku smile slightly. All Might was taken aback slightly by that, but he just nodded before turning with the gold medal towards Izuku. The medal was snatched. Not by Izuku, but rather by a red feather that twirled around the teen. "I was told that the angel is mine to congratulate," A voice shouted. Everyone's eyes rushed towards the source, and the crowd immediately erupted in chaos and cheering yet again. The man slowly descended to the ground, his feathers flowing behind him. "Hello there." The man spoke. Izuku just stared with wide eyes as the gold escaped his iris. Izumo had something to do with that. Izuku felt it in every cell in his body. "Hawks," the man said as he extended his arm for the teen to shake. "Izuku," the boy mumbled as he extended his own hand and locked it with the hero's. "I believe this belongs to you," the hero whispered as the red feather stood above Izuku's head, the metal dangling from it. "It is," the boy mumbled as it descended down to his head. He could have sworn the hero had winked at him before the crowd cheered again and allowed Midnight started speaking. "Well, now that that's done, let's welcome our school's new top contestant and student to give his winning speech," she shouted. Izuku noticed everyone starting to cheer and immediately smiled as he jumped off the step he was standing on. He noticed Hawks still staring at him, so he quickly smiled at him as well before flying towards the stage where he was handed the mic. I wasn't informed that there would be a winner speech, so I'm sorry if anything comes out wrong. I joined this festival with the idea that if I pass, I'll be joining the grounds of 𝗳𝗏 High School. Winning thus felt good, and getting the medal placed on me by Hawks himself felt even better, so I don't regret doing this. I hope I get the chance to redeem myself for the stuff that the League of Villains made me do. I was placed under some form of quirk where I couldn't even control my actions and was instead used as a SLV, basically. All of that happened because my own parents decided that I wasn't worth being raised with them due to being quirkless, so I promised that once I become a pro hero, all of the discrimination against quirkless people and those with weaker quirks will be worked on. Until then, I hope I get to bless all of you." The angel ranted. The crowd continued cheering throughout the entire speech. So did the heroes and the students who stared wide-eyed at him.